They told voters this would cost about $54 billion. Now we're staring down numbers pushing past $90 billion, with some estimates climbing well over $100 billion by the time it's done. And here's the kicker. Some of you won't even see your part of the system until 2041. But don't worry, you're already paying for it. So what exactly did Washington voters approve, and what are we actually getting? Because this isn't just about trains anymore. This is about taxes and timelines and whether the deal you voted for still exists.
From Seattle to Los Angeles, this is Left Coast News. No apologies, just the truth.
Welcome to Left Coast News, where we cut through the noise and actually break down what's happening here on the West Coast. Tonight we're talking about Sound Transit, a project that was sold as a long-term investment in transportation, but is now turned into a case study in cost overruns, shifting timelines, and a growing disconnect between what voters were promised and what's being delivered. We're going to walk through how this project ended up tens of billions over budget, why key expansions like Tacoma are getting pushed into the 2040s, and whether the taxes you're paying were ever meant to last this long. And the bigger question, is this system going to meet the needs of the region by the time it finally shows up? Because at some point you have to ask, is this still the plan voters approved, or has it quietly turned into something else entirely? Let's start with the number that should make everyone pause for a second. When voters approved ST3 back in 2016, the total plan was pitched at about $54 billion. Today, real-world projections are pushing into the $90 billion range, with realistic end-state estimates landing somewhere between $110 and $125 billion if this thing runs out to the early 2040s. That's not a small miss. That's a completely different project financially. How costs exploded. First, construction inflation. Back in 2016, nobody priced this system against post-pandemic labor shortages, material cost spikes, supply chain disruptions, and stack that over decades, and costs don't just rise, they compound. Second, building through Seattle. You're not laying track in open space, you're dealing with dense development, deep tunneling, property acquisition, and utility relocation. Every one of those adds time and money. There's no cheap version of this. Third, timeline creep. Projects originally planned for the 2030s are now sliding into 2040 to 2041, and time is expensive. More labor, more inflation, and more redesigns. Delays don't just push things back, they inflate the entire project. Fourth, revenue gaps. Funding comes from sales tax, property tax, and car tabs. When revenue doesn't hit projections, projects don't disappear, they get delayed. Tacoma delay reality. The Tacoma Dome extension is still in the plan, but now expected in the early 2040s. Not canceled, but when something gets pushed that far out, it starts to feel less like a promise and more like a placeholder. Why Tacoma? It's expensive, it's farther out, and when money gets tight, Seattle area projects get priority. The fairness problem. Pierce County voters approved the taxes and are paying now, but may not see full service for 20 plus years. That's a long gap between paying and receiving. Do the taxes ever end? Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The taxes approved under ST3 do not have a fixed expiration date. They continue as long as needed to fund construction and debt. So instead of ending at a set time, they end when the system is paid off. Do voters get another say? Not unless taxes increase beyond what was approved or a new package is proposed. Cost overruns and delays alone do not trigger a new vote. So what happens next? Three likely paths. Number one, they stretch everything out, and this is most likely. Keep the plan, delay the timeline, let inflation do the rest. Number two, quiet scalebacks. Smaller stations, reduced features, design cuts. Or three, political pressure, possible tax adjustments or oversight changes if voters push hard enough. Will the tech be outdated by then? No. Light rail isn't cutting edge tech, and that's why it lasts. What gets updated is trains, software, rider systems. What doesn't is the core infrastructure. The real risk isn't outdated tech. It's building a system that doesn't match how people commute in 2041. The real issue. This isn't just about transit anymore. It's about trust. Voters approved a price, a timeline, a scope, and all three have changed. But the taxes are still in place. At the end of the day, this isn't really about whether rail is good or bad. The region needs better transportation. The issue is how it's being delivered. When voters approve something, they're approving more than an idea. They're approving a deal. And right now, that deal looks very different than what was originally sold. You've got a project moving forward, but taking longer, costing more, and asking taxpayers to stay committed without another vote as things change. Whether you see that as normal or as a problem, that's going to shape how this plays out moving forward. Because whether your station shows up in 5 years or 20, you're already paying for it today. Thank you for watching Left Coast News. Please like, share, and follow us if you got anything out of this story. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Brighteon, BitChute, Spotify, Facebook, X, Instagram, True Social, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And don't forget to drop a comment below. Do you think Sound Transit is still delivering what voters approve? Or has this turned into something completely different? Your engagement helps push this content out and keeps these conversations going. Thanks for watching.